to another episode of Art Imitates Life. We break down classic Black movies, albums, and shows and figure out how we can apply those lessons to our life.
Yep.
Today I'm here with my man Mike.
Yo. What's up, X?
What's up, bro? How you feeling?
I'm all right, man. Can't complain. You know, we in a little bit of a different environment this time, but
Yeah, we switching it up.
yeah, you know, it's we still coming up, so
Exactly.
we got to switch things up a little bit.
Nah, it's all good.
You know.
And today we about to get into none other than Boyz N the Hood.
Yeah, man, Boyz N the Hood. You know, the classic Boyz N the Hood.
Right. The anniversary just passed not too long ago either.
Yeah, the 30-year anniversary of Boyz N the Hood just passed, and for that reason, we couldn't pass up this opportunity to review it. And I just wanted to give a little bit of backstory on the movie, you know, for those that don't know. Obviously, you know, the majority of our fans or anybody that's listening probably has seen the movie already. But like I said, for those that don't know, we got you. So Boyz N the Hood, as we said earlier, this is the 30-year anniversary. So it came out in July of 1991. It's the directorial debut of the late, great John Singleton. It stars Cuba Gooding Jr., Ice Cube, Morris Chestnut, and Nia Long. And this is actually the first movie that both Ice Cube and Morris Chestnut were in. And a couple other quick facts about this movie. This actually became John Singleton was the first Black director to get nominated for Best Picture for this movie.
Oh, wow.
And also he became the youngest director to get nominated for Best Picture at only 24 years old on his first movie. So
that's tough.
Yeah, like I said, this is legendary for a reason. So yeah, I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah, I mean, just to start out with the opening scene, it talks about want to see a dead body.
Yeah, that is a bleak way to start a movie, but you know, it holds no punches.
Yeah,
it holds no punches, and I think that's a great way to start a movie. Even though, like I said, it's bleak, it's a perfect way to start the movie. It drops you right into the reality that these people were dealing with, that these young kids were dealing with.
Yeah, they were
in South Central.
Right, they were so young, and I think that has such a impact that they probably didn't even get a chance to really process it.
Yeah, right.
So, like, what do you think about that in a sense of, like, you know, having those traumatic experiences and not really being able to see or able to put into perspective what you're actually going through?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for that specifically, I don't think Black people in general are even given this enough space to process that type of trauma.
Right.
That's not something that you're just supposed to be seeing. Like, you're not supposed to wake up, go to school, and hey, there was a dead body on the way to school. It's not a normal type of thing. So I think that was part of what John Singleton was trying to show. Like, a lot of this, you know, is systematically placed onto us that, you know, just forces these traumatic events, and we're not really able to process those things. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember even in the beginning of the movie where after he got into the fight, teacher was like, is there something that's going on in his environment? And as she's saying that, it's him walking home, and you know, there's a fight breaks out.
Yeah.
So it's just like a lot of those subconscious ways of how he might react, or just because it might have been his environment.
Yeah, that's all he's seen. And like I said, to those kids, that's probably is a normal thing. But like I said, to the outside world, it's like, whoa, this is what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what John Singleton was trying to capture, just showing what is going on in the hood.
Yeah, definitely. And then another scene, we talk about the Black cop scene. Or well, when they were going in there, when the robber came into the crib.
Right.
And his dad came in there and defended. Well, before he even got a chance to, you know, robber left. But after that, you know, an altercation or interaction, the police came.
Yeah. So honestly, that Black cop is, every time I see his face, I haven't seen him in anything else, but anytime I see his face in this movie, I just get so pissed off. Like, and that's another, subtle point that John Singleton was showing that, a cop really is a cop. Like, you're under that system. And, regardless if you're a black or a white cop, a lot of times those black cops feel like they got something to prove. And so, it ties in later to the scene once he gets older. But it's just sad seeing a black cop coming up to the young dude, or coming up to Trey as a young boy. He's like, yeah, it would have been another nigga dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what kind of thing is that to say to a young black kid? Like,
right.
What's wrong with you?
But then you also like try to have a facade like he actually cared about him too.
No.
So it's
all BS.
It was a lot of irony to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably another scene we can even talk about. The scene about gentrification.
Mm-hmm.
What did you feel the whole purpose of that scene was for?
So I think this was probably one of the best scenes in the movie. It really showed just how brilliant Furious was. Obviously, Furious was Trey's father.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost felt like he was meant to be like the Malcolm X figure or something like that. And I thought it was really important the way he brought Ricky and Trey down to Compton, which is not their usual neighborhood that they go to.
Mm-hmm.
And even in front of the guys, that were, out on the street doing whatever, he went up and, told them the stories about gentrification. And Ricky was like, oh, I don't know anything about this neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. He's telling them like, nah, like, it's the 90s. We can't be afraid of our people. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a really powerful scene. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I think it was just showing how certain areas aren't valued at a certain time because a certain demographic lives there.
Yeah.
But as you see, the school that people were looking up to or trying to aspire to go to was in that movie, even was USC, which is right around the block.
Mm-hmm. And
it just shows that it's the people who make that area worthy.
Right.
And you have to look to see if that's, for self and building it up. But there's also things that people, that have been systematic as well. So it's just trying to fight those two balances fight those two fights at the same time.
Right. And another point about that scene, you could see that generational divide.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt like Furious was the bridge between, the guys out on the street and, the old guy that was coming up and just blaming kind of everything that was going on in the neighborhood on those young guys, like you said, selling the rock, pushing the rock, and shooting and killing each other without really acknowledging what was going on systematically, which was why Furious was there to kind of bridge that gap. Because the young guys there, like I mentioned earlier, this is all that they knew.
Mm-hmm.
It's all they knew. So it's like, okay, well, nigga run up on me, like, I'm just not going to shoot him back.
Yeah.
So Furious was that he was the bridge to kind of give an understanding to the older guy of like, this is systematic, and to the younger guys that, yeah, this is a systematic problem that we're going to have to figure out because, they're not going to do anything for us.
Yeah. And it's a collective effort.
Absolutely.
I think that's probably like we'll get to that later too, when we talk about things, but that collective effort of, not just one person. Because it's kind of hard for one person to be the institution.
Of course.
So it's like realizing that there's faults on all ends of the spectrum and realizing where you can do to improve it type of thing.
Right. But, it will take more than one person, but just having that figure like Furious or what he was meant to symbolize may inspire one of those younger guys like, hey, all right, let's try to start something here.
Yeah, no, I definitely think there are definitely people who will start to lead the charge, but I don't think like having that one person
No,
be the
I
symbol.
agree with you.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
yeah,
I
that's
agree
all.
for sure.
And then even the last scene we can even talk about, which was you know, well, it's the infamous scene, I should say.
Yeah.
With Ricky.
Yeah, Ricky.
And Trey.
Mm-hmm.
So it was when Ricky and Trey were going around the block, heading back, and then, the car spots them. And these were the same guys who they had, some altercations with beforehand and going back and forth and everything. But now, they wanted to, get some revenge in some type of way. And
Right.
and Trey told Ricky, like, yo, we should stay together so we can get out of this predicament. Ricky was like, nah, let's go to separate ways type of thing.
Yeah.
And then, as they're going, you see Trey going one way, you see Ricky going another way. Right. But then he turns around and he sees the car and he screams his name. And that's how the infamous line goes.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the saddest scenes in movie history.
Definitely.
Like, I mean, I'm just trying to think, like, there's not really a lot of scenes that may bring like tears to my eyes.
Yeah.
But that is one of them. Like, especially seeing it from, regardless of them, but seeing it from the guy that was supposed to be like the golden boy. He's supposed to be the one that gets out.
Right.
And then one little just stupid altercation from a while back turns into him getting murdered for no reason.
Right.
And every time you watch that scene, it's like, man, you think something's gonna change. Like, you want him to like do like a football move, like a little swerve or something, but every time it's like, nah, it's no way to change the scene. And that's what hurts, because it's the harsh reality.
Yeah. And it even ties back to the beginning of the movie of wanting to see a dead body type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the beginning, the body was just laying there. Nobody was there to even like care to it or, just properly lay that person to rest.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that, when it happened to Ricky though, Doughboy and Trey made sure that he made it back home and that he wouldn't be like what they saw when they were a child.
You're right. Yeah. And even as sad as, heartbreaking as that is, it is also something beautiful in the fact that he was able to have someone with him there. It's kind of a slippery slope, but it is at least like he had someone there to comfort him.
Yeah.
In those last moments, somebody that you knew loved him and that he knew had love for him. So I think that was a really important scene.
All right, now we about to get into the themes. And for me, the main theme that I got was having a support system.
Mm-hmm.
And really having that backing, because at the end of the day, all of them went through the same things and none of them were above it, whether it was Ricky, Trey, Doughboy, whomever.
Mm-hmm.
But it was how they responded to those situations from the guidance that they had.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, that support system was so important in terms of pushing Ricky towards his goals. But honestly, on the flip side, you kind of see, how Ricky's mother treated Doughboy. And we, discussed it earlier, like pre-show.
Yeah.
We discussed earlier about how Doughboy, he really was an intelligent guy.
Facts.
He really was. He just didn't have any type of support system. And that's because of the divide that was in that household.
Mm-hmm.
So in regards to that, you just see how a support system and whatever discernment that Doughboy's mother had for him, it completely just turned him away from wanting or even seeing a bright future ahead. It was just like, okay, well, Ricky's the guy. I'm just kind of going to be the guy on the street.
Yeah.
And it was unfortunate because you saw the potential that he had, him and his friends. But because, just like in one of the opening scenes, the first scene he's in, his mother's just cursing him out, telling him he basically ain't shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, what kind of thing is that to say to a child?
Right.
So that was such an important aspect of that movie. And you could see how it just tore Doughboy apart. Yeah. Especially at the end. He's like, I don't have a mother. I don't have a father. And I ain't even got no brother anymore. So that was a really important thing.
Yeah, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's like a psychology term, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But it's just basically saying if you tell this person this is what they're going to be,
right,
soon enough, that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I think that was very unfortunate because he did think about a lot of the philosophical things.
Right.
He thought about God. He thought about, yeah, he was even questioning what it was, God, a man or woman, all those different things, just challenging his thoughts. And he was even had an understanding of what to do if he was given the opportunity to go to school.
Right.
And I think that was really, why, like, really opened my eyes too, in the sense of he was prepared. He had the capabilities. It was just given the opportunity.
Yeah, the opportunity and having that support.
And even his friends had those same aspirations. All of them wanted to do well for themselves.
Right.
Like, for instance, when the college recruiter came to visit Ricky, they were all asking the college recruiter, hey, how do I get into USC?
Right.
And, he didn't have an answer for him, but it was showing that they wanted those same things as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, touching back to just John Singleton's brilliance, he did a great job of humanizing those people.
Right.
Because especially I'm sure during that time, it was before our time.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, all in the media you see is, in those neighborhoods, another guy got shot, something. So the outside perspective from white people, it's like, oh, this is all they do, blah, these are just savages, all the phrases that they use for us. But he humanized those people and showed them like, these are people with real emotions. They have true aspirations. It's just, I mean, when you're placed into these type of environments by the people that are also criticizing you,
yeah,
what do you do to get out of that situation?
Right.
It's just survival at that point.
Exactly. And I think that's why it was so essential why Trey had such great support from his mother and father. And like, I know you were talking about that off the air. We want to like go a little bit more into that.
Yeah. So I think that was one of the most important themes in that as well. And I kind of touched on it a bit earlier, but just having that father in the household, I think that was honestly one of the most talked about themes in the movie. Just having that fatherly support. And from what I understand, Pieces of Trey's story is based on the real life of John Singleton. I think he went to go live with his father in like the same section of LA, around the same age. And his father was also like a loan broker or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. So, it was showing that, hey, you need that fatherly support. And Furious even said it in one of the scenes when Trey was, I think that was before the year skip. He was like, a lot of your friends, they don't have any type of fatherly support. Obviously Ricky and Doughboy, they just had a mother that loved one, and the other one was just like, you're just kind of a burden on my life.
Right.
So it was just really important for that character trait to have both a loving mother and, the loving father as well. You just got to have that balance. And even though that family was separated as well, it was very important to have both sides.
Exactly. So. Yeah, and I think that was the main thing I got. Regardless of how they felt about each other, they made sure that Trey was good.
Exactly.
So even if it's not a family that's married and together, it was still having the best interest of the child.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think John Singleton did an excellent job of just displaying that on screen.
Yeah. And that even ties into the ending of the whole cycle of revenge because when Trey, you know, when Ricky died, he was ready to go out with Dope Boy, get revenge.
Yeah.
And his dad was there and he had the gun. He's like, yo, like, hey, relax. Like,
Right.
this ain't the time to do that.
Yeah.
You know, there was so much hysteria going around. They're like, Ricky's in the crib, he's not there. You know, Trey high on emotion.
Of course.
Understandably so. Of course. And his dad's like, yo,
yeah, relax.
Take a time to do it. And even though it didn't kick in that very moment, it eventually got to him, and he was able to just be like, get out the way, get me out the car.
Yeah, and that's kind of something that our parents tell us a lot. Like, you may not get it now, but you're gonna understand me one day.
Right.
And it kicked in right in that moment. It's like, and plus, Trey and his father and Doughboy, which I want to talk about that point too, they knew he wasn't. That's not his life. That's not who he is. That's just not what his path is.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So, and I think that was another thing. It was really subtle, but it humanized Doughboy as well because he didn't put any pressure on to Trey, like, oh, no, you going to, like, no, it's like, all right.
He said, let him get up.
Yeah, and he said that later on in the movie. He was like, you shouldn't have even been in that car anyway.
Right.
I shouldn't have even let you get in the car because, like I said, you're not a part of this life.
Right.
And you don't need to be a part of this life. So, yeah.
No, that part really struck me to the core. And then Doughboy eventually did get the revenge for them killing his brother, Ricky. And, you know, even after that, he was still scarred. And it didn't solve how he felt.
No, not at all. And I think that scene where he, you know, parks the car after, you know, Monster does the drive-by or whatever. And he gets out the car and he just goes over there and, you know, finishes off the job. You could just kind of see it in his eyes, like, this is probably going to be it. You know, and then obviously later in the movie as well, in the final scene, you could just see a defeated man. Like, it felt like he had absolutely nothing left to live for. And he was in some ways comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So
there was no winners when they were going back and forth type of thing.
Right.
And like it kind of very like sad at the end where it just shows him fading away.
Yeah, that was was heartbreaking, man. I swear.
Yeah,
it's like
it's fading away because it's like you see him walking, and then he's gone because it's that cycle.
Yeah,
going back tit for tat.
Yeah, and it's just you know, a week before, but I think at the bottom of the screen it said like the next day he saw his brother get buried, and then he just fades away. 2 weeks later he got murdered, and then that's just it. It's like, man, that's bleak.
Yeah, it's tough.
Like that is, but I mean,
it was real though.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, man, it's a lot of deep themes in this movie, and another quick thing I wanted to point out, just talking about the household thing with the household split. You could see how it felt like Ricky's mother kind of babied him and sheltered him a little bit too much. Because just think about in the moment where they were running away from the Bloods, this man stops and starts peeing. And it's like, it felt like he didn't have like the proper street smarts.
Yeah.
Even though somehow a man growing up in the same exact household never would have done something like that. Like, he knew when something was like, all right.
Yeah.
Like, all he saw was in the moment all he saw was the red car drive by, and he was like, "Oh, like you gotta go get Rick."
Yeah.
You know, so I thought that was really interesting as well. Like two people growing up in the same household, but it's like they're almost from completely different worlds.
Yeah.
In some sorts.
And that even tied into Trey to some points of like in certain parts of the movie, he had certain tendencies when he was with his mother, and he had certain tendencies when he was with his father. Not saying that one was better than the other, but they were just being around a certain person.
Right.
It was just like he was more inclined to do one thing or the other.
Of course.
So yeah, and that showed he sensed when they were older at that last scene, he had both, and he had a good balance of both.
Yeah. Because you see, even though he's not a part of that life, he knew like, no, this situation is serious. Like Ricky's talking about, oh, they ain't about to do nothing. Oh yeah, they will.
Yeah.
They did just send everybody running because they were shooting a MAC-10 in the air.
Right.
Like, I think these guys are serious. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
But just kind of to wrap up that point, it's just interesting seeing how those guys how Ricky and Doughboy had completely different tendencies just based on the way that their mother treated them.
Right. And they weren't any different. It was just the opportunity and the support system.
Absolutely.
Well, that concludes another episode of Art Imitates Life. We break down classic Black movies, albums, and shows, and figure out how we can apply those lessons to our life.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Holla at you, bro.
Peace.